Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It is going to be an exciting video today. I'm going to be repotting my Ficus Fancy, my Ficus microcarpa in this Tokoname bonsai pot. Here's the difference in size of the new pot versus the old pot. So it's similar in dimensions, except it's rectangular. It's a little bit bigger, so it'll give the roots a little more room to grow. I think it'll look really nice in this pot. I think it's going to make quite a transformation of this tree. Last time I repotted this tree, I considered taking this one root off here. If you look from the front, it's kind of straight. It doesn't kind of curve down into the soil. This other side's a better, almost a curve. And that's what I like in this tree, is nice flowing lines. So I took a photo of it and I brought it into GIMP, photo editing software. So let's have a look at it. Here's a look at the tree, and you can see I've got the root in place down there. So I'll take it away like that. And you can see, so it makes the trunk less thick at the base. I'll click it back on. But it has a better flow. It kind of comes in and curves up. It flows up into the branches better. So I think I'll remove that root. It does look better. And this trunk will thicken up over the years, so I won't lose that thickness. It'll regain it. So yeah, based on this decision, there it is. Remove it. I'm going to take it off. Because that root is kind of straight. It just kind of flows straight down, and it doesn't look very good. The other side's nicely curved. It also creates a bit of asymmetry in the root base, so that the left side kind of is a bit longer, and with this one removed, you can see it creates a bit of asymmetry. So I'll push the tree to the right hand side of the pot. The longer roots will come out the left hand side, and I'll try and kind of balance that with the canopy eventually to make it, you know, fit the pot really nicely. When I repotted the tree last time, I had also decided to take this root off, and then when I was repotting it, I decided I better keep it. So this time again, I've decided to remove it, and this time I'm really going to do it. So that'll be the first operation to the tree. All right. So I'm going to come in with my branch pruners. They're a little rusty, but they're still sharp. I've got to get to my tools soon. So to remove this root, I think I need to cut it away first and then clean it up with the branch pruners. So I'm going to come in with my bypass pruners. I'll start right here, severing the root. Here I go. Oh, I hate doing this, but I think it'll look better. Now I'm going to come in a little higher and do the same thing, but I've got to try not to hit the root below it. I don't want some kind of weird mark in the root. So maybe I'll nibble away at it at the top here and just try and whittle away till I get it down to the base here, because I don't want to damage that root below it. These cutters need a little bit of sharpening. They're not cutting the wet wood. Let me try my other ones. They're a little small, but they're a little sharper. Yeah. This will leave a scar, but the trunk heals pretty quickly on a ficus, especially with all this top growth. Okay, it's almost coming free. The ducks have all come over to see what I'm doing. Okay. All right, it is slowly coming away. So I've got the root cut away. Now I've got to work on it still. It's not very flush. Another reason I'm taking this root off is I'm not a fan of those really exaggerated root bases. I want the tree to look very natural, like a miniature version of a tree you would see in nature. So I don't want it to look exaggerated and cartoon-like. That's getting there. Now I've got to get the stump off of the root that's in the ground here. I might be able to just pull it, I don't know. There's a root growing over top of it here. I think I'm going to cut that root away because it's not very flowing in a nice direction, so that one will just cut away. Now I might be able to pull this root out. If not, when I go to repot it, I can always get it separated from the rest of the root base. So I'll just cut it flush for now. Like that. That at least allows me to see what it'll look like. I might have to do a little more cleanup here. I've cleaned up that area of the root here. Made it as flush as I can get it. I did nick the one root here a bit, but that'll heal. So let's have a look at it from the distance now. Here's a look at the tree now from the distance. I think that looks much better. It flows into the, that hourglass shape. Flows a lot nicer without that kind of straight section along the side. And it makes the root base a little slimmer, which I think looks better. Yeah, I think it kind of balances the trunk portion here with the root base more. And these trunks will thicken up in the future and start kind of fusing together. And you'll see this create a really interesting sort of trunk branch structure. I think it'll be really cool once they all start fusing. I started this video a little late in the day, so I think I'm going to save the repotting for tomorrow. The sun is getting a little lower in the sky and I don't want to run out of light. I do want to show you what's happening with the seeds I planted in the previous video series. So let's go in the greenhouse here. So the only sign of life is with the Jerusalem thorn trees. And they're looking really good. If you look down here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trees germinating so far. So that's kind of exciting to get results that quickly. So that'll be exciting seeing those grow. My baobabs that I had soaking in the towel, they weren't doing anything. So I've decided I transferred them to a tub of water, so I'm soaking them again, hoping that it stimulates them to grow. I brought out the one table from my plant room today, so I've got 2 tables ready to set up here so I can fit more trees from the greenhouse outside. I was trying to find a pot for my Sarissa fotida here. I didn't have the right size, and I got an offer that someone would make me a pot, so I've got to measure up the exact dimensions I want and get that off. So that'll be really exciting. I came back to the Ficus microcarpa, the one I call Fancy, to take a fresh look at it, that root I pruned off, and I still really like it. I think that was a good improvement. So I can go to bed and sleep well tonight and dream of repotting it tomorrow. So we'll see you then. The old pot here is a plastic pot, and I've had it for at least, I'd say 25 years at least, and it's stood up really well. It says Ficus Bonsai tray 12172 is the number, Old Orchard Hill, and it says Kingsville, and then there's something I can't read. It's a number. It might be MI or something and a number. So yeah, it's been a really good pot, this. It's definitely got some patina on it, which, you know, I don't know if that's of any value, but it doesn't look like a new plastic pot. I'm going to begin removing all the old soil, combing out the roots. So here I go, just using my root rake here and raking in a radial pattern, starting from the center of the tree and raking outwards. I watered this tree last night and it's already quite dry. It uses a lot of water, this tree, because it has a fairly large canopy and it has a lot of fine roots, and they just take up the water. The soil looks in good shape. It's still nice and crumbly. And this is a mixture of safety zorb and perlite. And I don't think there's any wood chips in this. I don't see any. So I think it's just the 2 ingredients. And the tree's done really well. All right, I think I've got a lot of the surface soil kind of combed out. I'm going to flip the tree over now and start working on the bottom of the root base. I'll tilt the tree off the end of the bench here. That way I'm not damaging any branches as I work on the underside of the root system. So I'll start in the middle and kind of, again, combing outwards in a radial pattern. There's that bottom mat of roots. So the tree wasn't all that pot bound in 3 years. You can see there's lots of loose soil in here. Lots of space for the roots to still grow. So health-wise, again, it could have gone probably another year or 2 without any problems. I'm repotting it to change the pot and to improve the root base, the look of it, the aesthetics. So it's not just for health. And a lot of roots on a ficus, if you don't repot often, they can get out of hand. They can get that inverse taper where they start off thin and get fat and bulbous. And so if you keep up on the root base of a ficus, you can get a really nice root system. If you don't, repot fairly often, you'll get a very strange looking root system with thick coarse roots and strange looking roots, potato roots. So there's the bottom of the tree under there. You can see that's right down to the wood. So I just got to get the rest of the root base combed out. And I checked the weather forecast. It looks like it's going to be nice days ahead, so the ficus should recover quite nicely from this repotting. Got some warm weather ahead, which is what you want, warm, humid weather. You can see some of the roots at the bottom are crossing and definitely need correction. There's a good level of moisture at the base of the tree, which usually indicates good watering, that you're thoroughly saturating the soil and it's getting right underneath the root base here. So that's good to see. I'm going to switch back to working on the top of the root base now. Now I'm going to see if I can get that root out, that one that I cut off. There it goes. Oh, look at that. That was a vigorous root. That's good to get that out. I may be able to raise the tree in the pot a little bit and expose more surface roots, but I'll have to see. I don't want, the root base overpowering the tree. I don't want, all these exposed roots and then a small top on the tree. So I have to keep the two in balance. Yeah, there's definitely some roots that have gone. This one here has got all these thick roots coming off of it. So it definitely needs pruned back to keep that in check. And I think there's a few roots here that can get sorted out, yeah. They're kind of, it was going in a funny angle, and I think I can sort of untangle a lot of roots and get them going in a better direction. So that'll be exciting. And a ficus tree, the focus a lot of the time is on the root base because they're very unique looking ficus trees with the aerial roots and the buttress root base. It's kind of a characteristic of a ficus. You often see tourists posing underneath a ficus, kind of, marveling at the roots. So I'm just kind of separating all the individual roots. I don't want them all to become fused together. Not at this point in time, because I do want to be able to correct them and, get them to spread out nicely. Okay, I think they're all kind of loosened up now. I'm going to wash the roots next, and then we'll start the root work. All right, into the water the root base goes. And then I'll comb it, trying to get all the old soil out so I can get a clear view of what's going on with the roots and make good decisions when I go to root prune. If you can't see the roots, you're kind of just guessing. So you want to be able to see all the roots, where they're attached, if there's better roots underneath them. And that way you'll get a nice root base in the future. If you don't work on your roots, well, you won't really get a nice bonsai tree. You'll get just a tree in a pot. Okay, that's getting pretty good. Okay, I'm going to leave that sit here and I'm going to clean off the bench and then I'll bring it over. I'm all ready to start the root pruning, so this will be kind of exciting. So I'll get the tree. All right, here it comes. I'll try and get it on the turntable here. Got these roots trapped underneath. Okay, that's pretty good. All right. Yeah, lots of roots to correct. Well, one I noticed right off the bat here, you know, this one flows down nicely, and then there's one that kind of cuts across the front here, a big thick one. That doesn't look very good. That'll have to be removed. So I want to remove it right up to the top there. I mean, there's not any part of that root that's flowing in a nice radial direction, so I can sort out. There's a root on top of it which is nice, so I can move that aside and that can come down there nicely. There is, like, this one is sort of a radial direction, so I could have like a bit of an S-bend to that root, pruning it off here, but I still don't like that part that crosses this direction, so I want to remove it totally. And it looks like it might be possible I could just break it off. It's, you know, very loose where it joins there. I might need some scissors. I'm going to come in like this. There we go. So that root, you can see how fat it got, and then off the end there's just a little fine root growing. So that's like a potato root, and they're not very attractive. So below there, I'm just going to comb that section out. Yeah, there's lots of nice fine roots here that'll develop into really good looking surface roots. That one root can be redirected down like that. So that's a nice improvement to the root base. I'm looking at that one root that kind of isn't the worst root in the world, but it's also not the best. So I've got to decide if I want to keep that root. If you get, you know, your ficus roots all flowing perfectly, maybe the tree starts to look a little artificial. I don't know. I'm going to have a look at that root. I could remove it. It's not a bad root. You know, there is a nice radial root underneath it that I could expose. There's some roots off to the side that aren't a perfect direction. So I'm worried that if I remove that one root, then it'll highlight this root as not being, you know, perfect and radial and flowing. And it becomes a point where if your root base looks too perfect, anything that's out of place becomes noticeable. Whereas if you have more of a random root base, your eye accepts, you know, it not being perfect and that. And I think, you know, there's a line between perfection and making it look too artificial. I think in this case, because it does have a nice, you know, flowing root behind it, I think I should remove that one. That's my gut feeling, and this root is not the worst root in the world. It's quite fine, but I am going to remove it. So I've made my decision. I'm going to do it. So I'm going to, I think I'll have to nibble away at this one. I'm not sure. There's a root here I've got to cut. So maybe once I cut that, I can pry it out a bit. So let's try that approach. So cutting that root. I'll try and cut it in here too. So maybe I can get this root out now. Maybe not. It probably goes into the root base and disappears underneath. It feels very, very firm. But I'll keep trying. I mean, I'll keep trying to get that separated. Maybe I've got to cut it. I'll try and get in here with the pruners. that. Now maybe I can pry this upper part away. Yeah, there we go. So I'm prying it away now, like that. I just gotta cut another little piece of it here. There. So that gets that part of the root away. So now I've got to cut it off and clean it up. And you can see I removed another root here in the past and it's almost healed over. It looks quite good. So I'll just clean up that cut point. And this is where kind of the art of bonsai comes into play. You know, some people might have left that root there and that would be fine. I didn't. That was my decision. You're the artist making the choices. And okay, I think that's cleaned up fairly well there. Just cut around here. You can see the root was almost fusing with the one below it, but it was still separated. Okay, I think that's good. That'll heal over quite nicely. So there it is without that root now. Well, it certainly still looks good. No problems there. So I still have to get the remains of the root out from down below here. That could be quite hard. There's a root coming off of it here that's not very flowing. I'm going to remove that root. Like that. Didn't like the direction of that one. So let's see if I can get this other root out here now. And hopefully there's some nice roots underneath it. This takes a little prying. Yeah, so it goes into the root base quite deeply. So I gotta kind of figure out what's going on here. Once all these roots fuse together, you have less choice about, you know, moving them around and sorting them out. So it's a good idea to, as I say, keep working at your ficus root base. Okay, that one's kind of come up now. So now maybe I can get this one out. Maybe. Well, there it goes. So it had some roots attached to it, and it's gone. That's good. And I'll just clean up what remains of this part of it. Okay. Now remember I said about the cascading effect that, you know, you remove that one root and then you start to notice these other ones. Like this one, which isn't the greatest. That's that potato root I carved long ago back there. Now I think this one definitely has to go. It's kind of comes out and curves down. It's not a very good looking root. So off it goes. Like that. Now I don't know if I can get in here to clean it up anymore. It's a pretty tight spot. There I go. That's not bad. Okay, so that area is cleaned up. Now, what else here? There's a root here. You can see it comes down and then it divides into two here. There's one that kind of comes out of the soil and there's one that flows along nicely beside this root. I could remove this section of it. I probably should. I've already removed one root from up here on it. I'm going to do it. I think it would look better. All right, here I go. So I'm just going to cut it off like that. Move the bottom part of it. And then I'll come in and see. Maybe I'll use my knob cutters. Clean them off a bit. come in and clip it off there. So I think that looks quite nice now. Happy with that. You can see there's a crossing root here from long ago that's kind of fused. I think I'm going to try and get rid of it. It's really fused in there, but I don't want it growing any thicker. I almost have it out. There, so that removed quite nicely there. And I can leave the part of it in here, and it'll probably, because it's kind of fused with this other root, and it'll probably do its own thing there. That'll be fine. Okay, let's keep looking at these roots. I've got, on this root, I've got kind of, I'm looking for the flow again, and it kind of comes out abruptly there. However, you know, I can kind of reposition it down like that, and it should be okay. This root is getting a little bulbous at the end, but I'll take off this one here, like that. Okay, let's keep looking. I got a few crossing roots here, and I'm wondering, I think I'm going to get rid of those also. These ones here. This one here. They look okay when they're small, but if they thicken up in the future, they start to look really not very nice with the way they cross the other roots. Yeah, that's good there. There's another root here that's dead. It's just sticking out in midair. I think I just broke it off. Let's get rid of that. There's a root here. Kind of comes across and then goes up, and I'm going to try and pull it out. Oh, it's quite a long root. That can be repositioned. Okay, let's keep going here. There's a root here that it sticks in the air a bit, but it's not bad. It's a nice flowing root. It breaks up this straight part on this one. However, that brings us to this major root here, which has a lot of correction to do. You can see the one going off on a weird angle here. So let's have a look at it. So it's a very straight root, which ideally, you know, you'd want it subdividing back here, but it's okay. It's not the worst root in the world. So I'm going to take off this section that sticks up for starters. It's just, it doesn't flow into the soil nicely. So off it comes. And then I'll just clean that up a bit. Like that, that's good. Okay, and I'm going to do a little sorting out here. See what roots I have coming off of it. Okay, so down below, there's a major root that kind of dives down into the ground. I don't want that. So I can prune that off. So I'm going to do that. Like that. Get that dug out. Because I want these to be the surface roots. And I want to take a bit of vigor out of this root too. So now here's where it divides, and it goes off on not a very nice angle. It's sort of not very flowing. And it's quite thick, so I'm going to prune it back, and hopefully something new will grow at the tip. Usually it does. So I'm just going to take it off right here, like that. That's gone. So that was a fairly major root. It'll develop more roots coming off at the tip here, maybe some back. I don't know what you call back rooting. You don't call it back budding with roots, but just sorting out some of these roots in this area now, getting them to flow.